have breaking news from the NFL where the San Francisco 49ers are placing Christian McCaffrey on injured reserve. That's the latest from our NFL insider, Jonathan Jones. McCaffrey was a surprise scratch in the Niners' season-opening win over the Jets and had already been ruled out for Sunday's game against the Vikings. McCaffrey has been dealing with a calf injury as well as Achilles tendonitis. Now, with this move, he will be on the shelf for at least 4 more weeks. Jordan Mason figures to get the bulk of the carries with McCaffrey sidelined. And we welcome you into our CBS Sports HQ studios. Haley Sutton alongside Damian Harris and Danny Cannell. Guys, I know from a fantasy impact here, it's not what you want to hear. Christian McCaffrey's going on the roster. But for the 49ers, I think this is a big deal here. Danny, just talk us through no Christian McCaffrey on the field. What does that mean for them going forward?
I know the running back position has been diminished, as far as what they're making these days. And, they feel replaceable. He's the most valuable running back in the league, considering what he does for this offense, because he's not just traditionally taking it out of the backfield. He does so much. You can put him in motion. He can run routes. He can do so many different things. And he is pretty dynamic as a runner, too, when he does get the ball. He's explosive as anybody in the league. And if you consider when Brock Purdy has struggled, and he hasn't struggled much, it was when he's been without Christian McCaffrey. So you realize the importance of what he means to this offense, and it starts to become a little bit concerning. I will say this, against the Jets, they didn't have him, and boy, it didn't seem to affect that run game whatsoever with Jordan Mason going off for close to 150 yards. So that's a good sign at least, and it's only 4 weeks that you hopefully get him back. I think it's a concern, but it's not panic mode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll get into that and what it looks like down the road here. But Damian, I want to come to you first as a guy who's played the position at this level.
It's a tough one. It's a grueling one.
It's a tough one, right? Especially because you think about he didn't get a lot of reps in the preseason. He didn't get any reps in the preseason for that matter, trying to get into the game. What is it about a calf injury or just a soft tissue injury in general that hinders your performance as a running back?
These soft tissue injuries are the most darning things because they're supposed to be, you're supposed to have a way to prevent these type of things. There's supposed to be a way to keep things like this from happening, whether it's stretching, whether it's a warm-up routine, whether it's hydrating. There's tons of ways to prevent these things, but they still happen because running backs get a lot of mileage. They're either blocking on every play, they're getting the heck knocked out of them every single play. So running backs just get a lot of mileage, and then when dealing with these soft tissue injuries, they're just really frustrating because, again, they're supposed to be avoidable. They're supposed to be preventable, but it's something that you just can't keep from happening. So it's going to be a frustrating thing for McCaffrey, especially, like you said, he's missed a ton of reps. And that's the biggest thing for a running back is you want those reps, you want that timing with your offensive line, you want the timing with your quarterback, whether it be run fits, the quarterback handoff, running back handoff exchange, whether it be pass protection, all the things that Christian McCaffrey is good at, getting him out of the backfield, lining him up, creating mismatch problems for the defense. Like, those are things that take timing. Those are things that take reps. And granted, he has a lot of familiarity with this offense. That's still something that's not going to be able to be made up so quickly.
Also, too, there's something about these types of injuries where maybe if this was a Super Bowl run, if this was the playoffs, maybe you figure out you don't go 100%. But truly, the only way to get this better where it doesn't bother him the entire season is to shut him down.
Sure.
And just shut him down and say, all right, we are not going to have him come back until he's 100%. Because if he did try to keep playing through it or he came back too soon, then it is something that would linger the entire season. And when you're talking about somebody who relies on their explosiveness, you don't want that to be something that lingers.
Well, and, we talked about pushing this story forward here. Going IR means that he's going to miss the next 4 games. Conveniently, that means that his game back will be against my Dallas Cowboys. You can't write it any differently than this when it comes to that rivalry. But, Danny, just looking at the schedule here, looking at those 4 games, including tomorrow, so make it 5 when they take on the Vikings tomorrow. We talked about Jordan Mason, the big game that he had against the Jets. Obviously, he's someone who you'll look to lean on there as well. But in those 4 or 5 games there, what's the expectation for the running back rotation there?
I think, Jordan Mason looked outstanding.
He's the guy.
When he was carrying the workload.
I was gonna say, what rotation?
Exactly. Just keep handing it to him. But, this couldn't it couldn't work out any better for them. The Vikings, I know Sam Darnold was impressive week 1, but all those games are winnable. And I would say you can even make an argument the 49ers might be favored in all of them, even without Christian McCaffrey. And then before that, what potentially could be a game to decide who gets home field advantage throughout the playoffs against the Cowboys is when you get him out. I guarantee you that was taken into consideration when they they looked at making this decision, saying, yeah, this looks manageable. These aren't must-win games or games we can't win without them. So I think it sets up pretty nicely for the 49ers.
Taking a look at the rest of the depth on the 49ers when it comes to that running back position, of course, you have Jordan Mason, 28 carries, 147 yards and a touchdown. That was his breakout game, so to speak. Patrick Taylor Jr., Isaac Guriendo as well, and then they have a guy on the practice squad in Keyshawn Vaughn there. So obviously, to your point, give the ball to give the ball to Jordan and keep it running here.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah,
because I played for Kyle Shanahan's dad, Mike Shanahan. Similar system. You know, he's clearly adapted it to the modern times. But when I was on the Broncos, it started with Terrell Davis, then it was Mike Anderson, then it was Clinton Portis, and there very much was a philosophy that Mike Shanahan held to was we're not going to pay our running backs. We're just going to keep drafting them lower in the draft, and we plug them into this zone blocking scheme, and we put them into a system which is really, it's quarterback friendly, it's running back friendly, it's offensive player friendly because of some of the concepts they run. So again, not to diminish the value that Christian McCaffrey brings, but I do think they'll be able to manage because of the strength of the offensive line, the talent they have around, because Brock Purdy can still throw the football, and sometimes you throw the ball to set up the run. I think it's going to be something they'll be able to handle okay.
My question is, how is this going to affect the running back market? Because I don't want people to forget, Christian McCaffrey got paid by Carolina. He was the highest paid back in the league, and then what happened? He got hurt, and then the running back market took a huge hit after that, and a lot of people blamed Christian McCaffrey, which obviously, I mean, not figuratively blaming him because obviously injuries happen.
Sure.
But, you know, they looked at Christian McCaffrey as like, okay, this is what happens when you pay a back top dollar. They get hurt. This is a position where we can just interchange people. We can draft guys low and still find that same value. So I'm interested to see because McCaffrey just got paid again. I mean, he just became the highest paid running back in the league again, and now he's facing the same exact situation where he's hurt again. And so now we're starting to see running backs sign some more lucrative deals. Look at what Saquon got. Look what Josh Jacobs got. You know, some of these other guys, DeAndre Swift is another example. So I'm wondering if, you know, this Christian McCaffrey situation is going to hinder the running back market moving forward.
Yeah, especially when you think about the meeting of the minds they had last year with all of the running backs getting together and demanding that you respect the position.
It's unfortunate because as a running back, and I'm just being 100% truthful here, as a running back, you advocate for yourself. You advocate for the position as a whole, but then things like this do happen. And I think that it is because of the importance of the position. Like Christian McCaffrey, he gets a lot of mileage, and it's not just because he's running the ball. It's because he's catching the ball to the backfield. They're motioning him out. They're using him to create mismatches for the defense, and he's required to do a lot of things. And if that happens, your body is eventually, it's just going to get tired. It's going to break down. And Christian McCaffrey is somebody who's got a lot of stamina. He's in for most of the plays of the game. Like, he doesn't come off the field a lot. So naturally those things happen. So it's such a hard back and forth because pay the running backs. Like, they're indispensable. Like, these are guys that you have to have in your locker room and on your team. But at the same time, it's just like, then something like this happens. Christian McCaffrey, who is the best, most versatile, explosive running back in the league, gets paid and then he gets hurt.
What'll be really interesting, though, is that Jordan Mason, who there was zero drop-off. He might have led the week, the first week one in running back yardage.
2 or 3.
If he goes out there in the next 4 games and has similar type performances, I do think that does hurt the running back market again because you look and you say, all right, well, the drop-off wasn't that much.
Right.
Like, we didn't lose that much, so why not just plug in a guy that you drafted in the 5th, 6th, or 7th round or picked up in free agency for pretty good value? I do think this will be a really interesting case study to see.
I want to ask you real quick before we head off here, Brock Purdy, because you mentioned it, how does this impact him?
It'll be curious because I do think he likes to rely on him in the screen game, having him on 3rd downs when you get him on a little option route, stuff like that. And it has been a place where, because Brock Purdy's been unbelievable, and I doubted him early. He's proved me and anybody else wrong. I think he's legit, top quarterback in the league the way he's played. If you were nitpicky and saying when did he struggle, it would have been without Christian McCaffrey. Last year, there was also he and Deebo Samuel were hurt. And they had I think their left tackle was out too, and so they had multiple guys, but Christian McCaffrey was one of them. I do think he does mean a lot to the system, so I think it'll be interesting because Brock Purdy's one where if he struggles when Christian McCaffrey's out, is he the system quarterback again? And then it hurts him. He's going to be up for a contract soon too. So I think it'll be interesting just kind of how all this plays out and the kind of the tentacles that it could impact the running back market, Brock Purdy's contract, a lot of different just kind of things to watch out for.
That's what happens when you've got such a high-level guy like McCaffrey in a situation like this. Again, best back in the league, highest paid in the league, but now he's hurt. Now we're looking at how does this affect his quarterback? How does this affect the running back market? Like, that's the great thing about sports and, such a highly talented guy like McCaffrey, which obviously it's unfortunate that he's hurt, but, there's so many tentacles, there's so many webs, there's so many things that go into this, and how is this going to affect, what's going on in the market, with your team, so on and so forth. So it's definitely really interesting to see what's going to happen with everything involving this injury.
Yeah, it is obviously news that we were kind of expecting, with Kyle Shanahan teasing it earlier in the week, but now it is official. Christian McCaffrey is headed to the IR after dealing with a calf injury. Gentlemen, thank you so much for hopping on to chat with us. We have